minutes here we'll give everybody a few minutes here before we begin this evening. And Mark, do you have a way of powering up that screen there? All right. There you go. Okay, good. Well, I didn't know who I was. You're kind of sneaking in back there, so that's right. So, well, I'm going to give Stan a few extra minutes. I don't see him just yet. They fed us tonight, so Miss Becky and Stan, he'll come on in a little later. But we certainly have enjoyed our visit here in Chattanooga, and very impressed with this church. Very, very impressed. Some churches are on life support when we reach them, and it's a challenge, to revitalize and to energize a church that is just almost beyond its life cycle. And but we've seen successfully churches restored, and that's encouraging to us. Mentioned the Madison congregation yesterday, and they were 20 members. The church was about to close its door, sell their building, and the preacher said, "Let's just try one more thing," And they called us, and we came out there, and the men were very discouraged. This isn't going to work. And I said, "Well, just try. Just give it a try." And so they had a baptism, and another baptism, and another baptism, and another baptism, and now they're on fire, and they've got about 40 people. And of course, what happens is when a church livens up and works, people begin to notice, and they want to be in a church that works. People don't want to sit in a dead church. They want to be in a church that's working. So, they come on over, and the church really gets life, and that was really encouraging to see. And we went to Coweta, the church I mentioned last night. We had 22 members, and now they're averaging over 50. In 2 years, they've doubled. And the preacher told me when I first got here, he said, "Listen, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done." I said, "Well, that's got to change." I said, "Because this church will not survive if that's how you're operating." And so they really, those members got busy. And that church has been just an encouragement. In fact, they've done so well. Their preacher, Keno Shrum, we asked him to join our school last fall. He said, we'd like to hire you, get you on board. And you have a way of motivating people, and you see the vision. So we have 9 regional trainers, and they're all over the country. We have one in Kansas. I think Brother Stan said he was from Kansas, I believe. Is that right? Yeah, Becky. So we have one in Kansas and Beloit, and we have one in Baltimore, which is Eric Sykes. He's baptized about 70 people in the last 3 years. I realize I can't do it all, and so we're trying to train and bring people in that are successful. And so we've got a guy in Georgia and Tennessee, and we have one in Honolulu, and that church has been amazing. Just absolutely amazing growth. So very encouraging, and I hope that this trend will continue as we seek to wake up the spirit of evangelism in our churches. So. Come on in, fellas. Good to see y'all tonight. Come on in. Good to see y'all tonight. Does anybody not have one of these books? Anybody not have these? If you don't, I have some extra ones. Gentlemen, do y'all have these right here? Here we go. Here we go. Get these to anyone who doesn't have them tonight, and we'll make sure that everybody is equipped. What happened there? All right. All right, we'll go ahead and get started this evening. I want to welcome you to our advanced training. This is considered an operational side of our schooling. The principles are important. The practice of back to the Bible cannot be emphasized enough. But if we don't make it, if we don't put it into operation, everything we're doing is going to be for naught. So every industry has a word for what we're about to do tonight. I tell you what, in the IT world, they call this an executable file. If you don't have one, you're not going anywhere. The zeros and ones must be put to work. And so if you're in the military, they say, let's make it operational. And that means the colonel has a plan, and it's time to make it executable. And so perhaps if you were in a sports team, they would say, let's blow the whistle. And meaning that all the training you've done, it's now time to put it to use And so blowing the whistle means that you need to get started. So what we want to do tonight is make this operational. I don't want to leave you with just some good sermons. I hope you've considered them of value. But I know that it doesn't matter who you brought here. If it was if you brought some of the best speakers we have in the Brotherhood, that if it's a sermon, I know from experience you might be fired up for a few days, but you're going to go back into your normal routine if we don't put into practice or put into place steps to produce change. And change is a scary word. We certainly don't want to change doctrine, but we must change culture. We've got to change the way we operate in our churches, and which means that we're going to pull people in, and we're going to ask for your help. So please, as time transpires here in the next few weeks and few months, be ready to help your elders and be willing to do what they ask you to do. And I'm going to be speaking with your elders tonight. And I know as a member of the church, if an elder asks me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I hope your attitude would be the same. But our churches will not survive if we keep the pastoral model. We must switch gears and put this into the membership of the local church. So you are the key. The members of this church are the key to growth. And this church will not grow without the membership. And we want to make sure that we get back to that New Testament pattern for growth. World War II was a dark time in the history of the world. Adolf Hitler took his armies, he marched across the European theater, and it was called the Blitz. And what he would do is take his technology, which was very advanced for the time, and they would, as quickly as they could, they would go from one battle to another. They gave their opponent not time to regroup. They didn't stop, and it was very efficient. And the world leaders were coming together. What are we going to do with Adolf Hitler? What are we going to do with Germany? Look at what's going on in the European theater. And the British people were they were quickly losing morale. And the people were seeing the continuation of a campaign of destruction. And so the world leaders came together. Neville Chamberlain was representing the British people. And his thought was that we just need to come to peace with Hitler. If we could in some way adopt a treaty and he'll stop his aggression, and we can avoid these prolonged wars, and everybody can go back to their peaceful life. Well, the world leaders begged him not to. They said, don't do this. They said, Adolf Hitler is not someone he's going to break the treaty. He's not going to listen. Well, Neville Chamberlain decided to do it anyway. So I think it's Treaty of Versailles. He goes over and he sits with Adolf Hitler, and Hitler promises that he'd be a good little dictator, that he won't do any more conquering. And his conquering days are over. He's got what he wants, and Neville Chamberlain says, "Okay, if you'll agree, then we'll stop our engagements, and we'll resume trade, and things will be just as we would hope." So they signed the treaty, and it hardly lasted while the ink was wet. And Adolf Hitler got to France, and he did something that nobody in the world thought was possible. He started on the east side of the border of France, and they just cleaned the country. And it was so fast. In fact, so quickly were their armies marching forward that they couldn't retreat fast enough. They were surrendering as quickly as the German army was moving forward. And once again, the morale of the British people was dropping, and the people were concerned because after France, they know where he's going next. And there was a man, he was in the parliament, his name was Winston Churchill. And he saw what was coming, and he was representing his party. And he was allowed to make a speech. Some believe it's one of the greatest speeches in world history. And in that speech, Winston Churchill said, quote, "He who fails to plan is planning to fail. My fellow countrymen, we have no plan, and we're going to lose this war." That speech changed the tenor of the people. And they elected him prime minister. And they went from an appeasement policy to a war footing. And then Winston Churchill went down as one of the greatest leaders in world history. Brethren, I'm afraid we're losing this war. In America right now, our churches are closing at the fastest rate we've ever seen. Some estimates have them at about 120 churches a year. From 2015 to 2018, we lost by average 18,541 church members every single year. That's how fast the church is disintegrating. 111 churches shutting their door. Dear friends, I want us to understand something. If we don't address this issue, if we don't make this the number one issue in our churches, the Church of Christ is not going to survive in America, not in a form that we understand. We won't be able to pay the light bills. In fact, there are churches right now, and they cannot afford to pay their light bills. They're having to sell their building because they can't afford the building they're worshiping. Most churches where I do these seminars, they're a fourth full. 3/4 of the auditorium is not even being used. It's not uncommon for me to go into a church. I go to 42 churches a year. And what I see is that 2/3 of their complex is dark. They're not even using it. In fact, I say, what's down here? We don't use that anymore. It's just too expensive to heat and cool. We don't need it. But at one time, you can see it was a thriving congregation with good works going on. But now, it's barely functioning. If we don't address this problem, we're going to find that the attitude of appeasement is going to result in the very same way it resulted with Neville Chamberlain's appeasement of Hitler. You cannot make a treaty with Satan. Brother, he's coming for you. He wants your families. He wants your churches. He's not satisfied. He knows that America, if you want America, take down the Church of Christ. If you want to destroy America, destroy the church because it's the backbone of the country. Because so goes the church, so goes the family, so goes the family, so goes the nation. So what I want to talk about tonight is how can we reverse this trend? How can we turn the corner? Well, as I showed you last night, there are churches all over America who are turning the corner, who are succeeding, who are growing. I mean, I listed 30-some churches last night, churches of Christ, who have now turned the corner and are growing against all odds. And because we are not served by a president, because we are not served by national boundaries, and because it is not a sovereign physical border, that we serve the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and we're talking about the Church of Christ, there is hope. The hope is that if we fight for God, no matter the odds, no matter how large the army is, no matter what the surrounding areas look like, that if God fights for us, we can win. But brethren, if we sit in our church buildings any longer, and we just expect them to come, and we have no plan for success, you'll lose. You'd lose your job. You're going to lose your family. We're going to lose the church. And so it's obvious that what we've been doing isn't working. And it's common. I'll walk into a church building. I've said this to elders before. I said, if you'll give me a piece of paper, I'll give you your church calendar. I can almost name your activities. We do the same thing in every church of Christ. You may call them by different names. We put different packages and wrap them in different colors. But we all do the same thing. We've been doing the same thing for 30 years. Brethren, it's not working. It's very obvious that what we've been doing is not working. So what can we do? It's the number one question that I'm asked as I go to churches. Rob, we're losing our young people. And Rob, what can we do? You know, we've hired youth ministers. Well, that didn't work. I mean, we've gone through the youth minister phase, and we were thinking that maybe that was the key. If we just get a youth minister, somehow we'd save our youth. We've entertained them as much as we can entertain. I mean, we send them on mission trips. We send them to the Creation Science Museum. We do lock-ins. We do activities constantly. I mean, may I suggest if we want to save the Church of Christ and we want to save our youth, that we raise an army of soul winners. Brethren, I guarantee if you teach children, if you teach your youth how to be soul winners, every teenager that conducts a personal Bible study and tries to win their friend to Christ, I promise you they're not falling away. You give them a purpose. Let's give our people purpose. Let's give them mission. Let's make sure they realize that this sitting in a pew and going through the 5 acts of worship is not the end of Christianity. And so we're commissioned to people. And the mission is that we must go into our communities and make disciples. It's not as though it's complicated. It's not as though it's a multi-step process. It's just really, it's one mission. Go make disciples. Go teach people. And what I'm seeing is our young people don't know how to do it. Our members are not doing it. But I see something else. It's not for a lack of desire. Most people want to do it. Most of our members want to teach. They want to see. They want to grow. So let me begin tonight by saying this. I don't question your motives. In fact, I assume, I'm a 1 Corinthians 13 guy. I hope all things, believe all things. I'm going to assume the best until you prove me otherwise. You're going to prove to me that you're not, your motives are not sincere. So I'm just going to assume they are. So with that assumption being made, it's not the lack of desire. So as I sit in the homes of Christians, I know that you want your family to go to heaven. Listen, I know you want your grandchildren to go to heaven. I know you do. But how do we do it? When I started this school, I knew this would be the most important part of our school. We needed to put together a concept, and we needed to prove the concept. We needed to have process and prove the process. We needed to come up with a model and prove the model. And everything we do now it revolves around our model. We have 6 steps. Everything I do revolves around 6 things a church has got to do. What I want to do tonight is I want to give you a really big picture. This is like a 10,000-foot view of what some of that involves. So you'll find similarity. Like if you were going to be a successful football team, these 10 things, I guarantee you're going to do them. If you were going to be a successful these 10, you do those things too. So I'm just going to put it into the language of the church. So if you're going to succeed, what must you do? You got to get the equipment. You will not succeed without the equipment. A football team is not going to win football games without the equipment. A military is not going to achieve victory without the equipment. A carpenter is not going to build your barn without the equipment. Okay, the IT guy is not going to succeed without his equipment. Where's the equipment? Oh, preacher, we've got equipment. I know. We've got microwaves and refrigerators and ovens and coffee pots, coffee stirrers, coffee cups, coffee creamer, coffee grinds, coffee makers. We got everything we need for our coffee. I mean, I'm not against coffee. I promise. You want your coffee to go right? Yeah, I'm not going to stand in your way. Listen, we got everything. We got crayons and markers and safety scissors and glue sticks and safety glue sticks, and we've got coloring paper, and we've got die cut machines, and you got one of the finest workrooms I've ever seen. When we've got everything we need to open a soup kitchen, we got everything we need to open a school. Here's my question: have we equipped the members of our churches with what they need to teach the lost? Have we trained them how to use it? Have we helped them understand? How do you reach out to neighbors? How do you reach out to family? What do you say? How do you get them around the kitchen table? What method should you use? These are the most fundamental aspects of evangelism, because without them, you're not going anywhere. Someone says, we don't need equipment. In what field does that make sense? I said, well, I just need my Bible. Yeah. Brethren, I understand. But Paul said, bring the parchments. Didn't he say, Timothy, there's some things I need, Timothy. Bring the cloak when you come. He said, there's some equipment that I really could use. And didn't Jesus say in Matthew 10 when he was commissioning, in the limited commission, listen, when you go, this is what you need to take with you. Brother, I've been conducting foreign mission trips for a long time. I take teams of about 50 people overseas, and I couldn't imagine taking, and I go to third world countries, I could not imagine taking that many people overseas and forgetting the equipment. I find it interesting that a lot of our churches have no problem. We have no problem building orphanages and widows' homes and Bible schools and church buildings. And man, we'll send the money, by the boatloads all over the nation. And then I walk into a church building and I say, hey, brother, I said, I'm about an hour early. I said, could we role play a little bit? He said, sure. I said, if I was a member of your church, he said, yes, sir. I said, and I wanted to conduct a personal Bible study. I said, where's the equipment? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, what, if I want to conduct a Bible study, I said, equip me. Give me what I would need to conduct that. He said, preacher, we knew you were coming. We're prepared. He said, follow me. So I'm walking. I'm following this elder, and we're going down this long hallway. And he's turning on the lights, and he's jiggling his keys, and we get to the end of the hallway. Preacher, it's in here. So he tries to open the door. He jiggles it. Of course, it's locked. Don't worry. We had the ring of keys. We brought it out. We went through the keys. We finally got into the room. He said, preacher, I believe it's back here in this cabinet. He went back to the cabinet. Of course, it was locked. Don't worry, we had the ring of keys. We did it again. We went through all the keys. We opened the cabinet. He pulls out a set of Back to the Bible. I said, hey, that's pretty good. He said, we knew you were coming, preacher. We bought them. And I said, good. I said, brother, I have one question. I said, why are the tools that your members need to teach the lost the gospel of Christ locked in a room and locked in a locker? He said, we were afraid they might get them. Isn't that the point? Don't we want them to get them? Why are they in a cabinet locked away? Brethren, first you need to get the equipment. We spare no expense when it comes to decorating. We spare no expense when it comes to making sure our church buildings have aesthetic appeal. But when it comes to making sure our members have the equipment to reach the lost, we're anemic. I got so many stories I could tell you. In 5 years, I've experienced some very unique situations. I was at a church, and this was just a year ago. And man, they went all in. They said, man, whatever we need, Rob, you just tell us. And they got everything they needed. And I'm talking boxes and boxes of stuff. And I said, man, this church is going to, they're going to do well. So after about a year, I'm not getting any communication. That's usually a problem. Because I communicate with the churches in our school every week. You will get tired of me. I'm a little pesty. And so I ask questions. Hey, how's it going? How many studies you have? How many visits have you made? How many visitors came? How many prospects you have? How many cards you send this week? How many new movers have you visited? And we're just going down the list. We do it every single week. We keep data. And I'd never got a response. I never give up. One of the elders called me and said, Rob, we're struggling. I said, I can imagine. He said, could you come see us? I said, I will. I said, I tell you what, I have a date open. I can come just one day. I pulled up and I walked in. They got a beautiful foyer. I mean big. Nothing. There's nothing there. So I got up before the church and I'm looking for the equipment. I don't see it. And I know there were boxes of stuff. Where is it? So I get up there and I do a presentation, a lesson. And in fact, I just so happen to have, let me see here, these little booklets. Well, that's not right. That's the wrong booklet. Okay. Let's see. Try that. Oh, here they are. And let's see if I can get them out here. And I had these Back to the Bibles. And I said, I just held them up like this. I said, listen, I said, I've got these Back to the Bibles. I said, let me talk about them. They're very simple to use. And people were listening. And this teenage boy comes up to me. And he says, hey, Mr. Rob, can I got a set of those Back to the Bibles? I said, well, sure. I said, son, why do you want? He said, I got a friend at school. I'd like to teach him. I said, don't you have some? He said, I've never seen them. Brethren, they got 400 sets somewhere. I know they have them. I sat down with the elders and I said, brethren, where is your equipment? It's in the closet. Brother, I can tell you story after story of churches, and one of the reasons our members are not evangelizing is because we're not equipping them. So what should you do? Number 2, put it out there where they can get it. Don't hide it in your library. I don't know if you've realized it or not. They're not going to the library. Wendell Winkler once said the most important room in the church is the most neglected. That's the baptistry. I'd say this is second. It's the library. All right, so we put all this stuff in the library, and listen, I've been to these churches, and I love to look at old libraries, and you can see the stack of stuff sitting there, and you're like, why is it back here? Why isn't it out here where people can actually get it? Can you imagine if your job did this? They put all the things you need to be successful in a closet, and you never saw it again. So here's what we encourage churches to do. You need to make an evangelism center. You need to put everything on the table, and you need to make sure the members know it's there, highlight it in your bulletin, talk about it, make sure that it's got someone who's coordinating it, and it shouldn't be your preacher, and make sure it's full, and make sure your members have access to the things they need to do the job. Because if you don't, they won't do it. I remember the first time we put this out at Jacksonville, and I put it right in the front of the foyer. I mean, you couldn't miss it. And I watched people as they came in the church building. They kind of looked at it, went around. One lady looked at it, and she kind of backed away like it was going to bite her. And she went in another door. She actually went, she didn't go into that door. She went in another door. She wasn't sure what that was. And so the very fact that we actually had evangelism material sitting in our foyer. Now let me tell you what happened. I was at a church, and David's his name. I'm not going to go further than that. David said, Rob, we got that equipment. We put it out there just like we were supposed to. I'm preaching on it. And he said, man, I went there the next week. He says, and it was gone. I said, David, that's exciting. The brethren were hungry. He says, Rob, you're so optimistic. He said, no. He said, no, Rob, it was gone. And I said, David, I said, where'd it go? He said, well, I had a sneaky suspicion. He said, so I went to one of the men. I said, hey, brother, where's our evangelism center right there? He said, well, he says, are you talking about that gaudy table? He said, now, when we built this $3 million facility, we agreed as to what would go in the foyer. And that was not an approved item. And the ladies complained because it didn't match the decor, and we put it in the coat closet. I'm telling you a true story. The coat closet. He said, it's a big closet, Rob. I said, they put the evangelism materials in the coat closet. He said, yes. I said, David, what'd you do? He said, well, I decided to do what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to preach on it, so I got in the pulpit Sunday night, and I preached on the evangelism materials in the coat closet. And I said, brethren, go get them. And I explained what they were. So he said, after the sermon, I was like any good preacher. I walked down the aisle. I stood outside the door. I opened it up. I said, come get the materials. Guess how many brethren went into the coat closet to get them? Just take a wild guess. None. Brethren, if we cannot put evangelism materials in our foyers because they don't match the decor, maybe we should sell the building and go home. This is the church of Christ. This isn't the Lions Club. This isn't home interior. Where our job is to equip. We should be equipping our soldiers. We are an army of soul winners. That's or ill-equipped. We have no equipment. We must equip our people. I'm not here to equip Gary. No disrespect. I'm just not concerned about Gary. I'm concerned about the membership of this church. Because if the membership of this church are not equipped, they won't do it. So once you equip, so let's say you get a job out there and they come on in, Brother Tom Shack, let's say you hired someone at your financial, and they came on in. But if you didn't provide them a cubicle, a computer, a station, a workspace, whatever you want to call it, and you didn't give them the things that they need and access to it, how successful would they be? So what's the obvious thing you do? What's the obvious thing you got to do next? This isn't rocket science, gentlemen. You train them. Did you not tell me that you take them and did you not tell me when we ate together that you've done every job there is at Morgan Stanley? Why? Just tell us, why have you done every job?
I started from the bottom and worked up the top.
Is it important that you understand the various jobs?
It is, and that way I can empathize with each person that's had it, and they cannot, I've walked in their shoes.
Hugh Wayne Clark owns the largest lumber company in the state of Tennessee. It's massive. And he's an elder in the church. And I go see Hugh Wayne. I say, hey, where's Hugh Wayne Clark? He's on the loader. Brother, he doesn't need to be on the loader. You know why he's on the loader? I asked him. I said, why are you on the loader? He says, because I need to understand what my guys are doing on the loader. because he wants to understand. So what's the moral? He said, Rob, if I can't train my people if I don't know what they're doing. So let's put this into the church. Okay, what should we do? So if you're going to equip people, you should train them. And I would guarantee no one gets on the loader without proper training. They're going to be trained on what to do with the loader. And they're going to be trained on what to do when people walk in the door. Questions that you're supposed to ask. They may even have a cheat sheet of things they're supposed to talk about as the client sits. The client sits across from the table. And now you don't have the cheat sheet anymore, brother, because you've been doing it for 39 years. But your new employees have the cheat sheet, and so you're going to be trained how to bag groceries. And let's not put the milk and the bread in the same bag. And they're going to train you how to use the cash register. And they're going to train you how to use whatever it is that you're doing. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and I want honest answers. How many members of our church, how many of you men right now have ever gone to a training class in the church that trained you what to do when a visitor walks in the door? How many of us have been to a class that trained us in how do you approach someone who moves into your community? How many of us have been to a training class that says, here's what you do when you have a new convert? How many of us have been to a training class? I mean, I could go on and on. Here's the simple answer. We haven't. We have not been trained. And so here's our training is, man, that was a great sermon, Gary. Is that going to transfer to actionable changes in the membership? No. So for every lesson, there has to be an action. So for every sermon, there's got to be something that there's got to be an application of it. And so something so here's my proposal. My proposal is this. When you're looking at making changes in your local church, you've not only got to equip them, you got to put it where people can get it, then you got to train them how to use it so that they will be effective in so doing. So you can put all the materials out there, but if you never train a church member what to do with back to the Bible, I promise they're not using it. They're scared to death of it. You don't train them how to use the material. There are actual materials that we use when visitors walk in the door, and I'm going to talk about this tonight. They're very important. The visitor is the number one target, the number one contact. It's the highest producing fruit in the kingdom is the visitor. And do you know literally they can walk into your church building and walk out, and we don't even have contact information. But don't worry, we got cards in the pew backs in front of us, and we ask them to fill it out. Brethren, that hasn't worked for 30 years. Our members don't even fill those cards out. I was at one church recently, and they said, oh, Rob, yeah. And they started laughing. They said, oh, yeah, no one fills out. We got the QR code. That's even less successful. You know how many people use QR codes? This week, I asked everybody to use the QR code. 21 of you did it. Doesn't work. I'll tell you what does. Before I'm done tonight, I'm going to give you something that works 99.999% of the time. And so we've got to train our people, because if we don't, we're going to fail. Number 4. All right, we've got to promote an evangelistic atmosphere in our churches. We've got to put a funnel in our church that says evangelism, and everything we do funnels right through it. The atmosphere, the culture, everything we do from this day forward focuses on winning souls for Christ. So if we can't win souls, we don't do it. If this isn't focused on helping people go to heaven, listen, we're not doing it. We're not a country club. This isn't a boys only club. This is not the senior center. This is the church. You want to know what the purpose of the church is? To this intent, that now unto principalities and powers in heavenly places, it might be made known by the church the manifold wisdom of God. Our job in the church is to make known to the world the manifold wisdom of God. We have one purpose. One purpose. And you keep yourself focused on that one purpose. So, let's talk about what this means. You ever have a backpack drive here at Mountain Creek? Okay. School supply. So the Carnes congregation called me and they say, hey, Rob, you guys are getting ready to come, and we got a deacon we put over our backpack drive, and we think that could be an evangelistic resource, and we'd like you to spend some time with our deacon, and if it would be okay, could you maybe give some pointers? And I said, sure, I'd love to do that. So I gave some thought to it. I sat down, pen and paper. I thought about, okay, how do we take a backpack drive and make it a soul-winning event? I got to the church, and they said, Rob, that's the deacon, and he tours me. He takes me to the backpack room. The backpack room has more backpacks and school supplies than Walmart has. I mean, this church was prepared. And people gave. And most of the time, when you challenge a church elders and say, we need help, they rise to the occasion, don't they? In fact, they exceed your expectations. I said, brother, what's your plan? I saw orange cones. And he said, we've been watching Chick-fil-A, Rob, and man, they can move people through lines better than any place we've ever seen. He said, we're going to cone it off. He said, we're going to have a cart out here. We're going to have the backpacks on the cart. We put a little information about the church in the backpack, and we're going to get information, and we're going to run them through. We reckon we can go through 400 backpacks in the morning. I said, I bet you can. He said, what do you think about my plan? I said, brother, I just love the idea that you're wanting to do good in your community. I love the backpacks. I love the efficiency aspect to it. I said, but if I was doing it, I said, I'd put your backpacks in your classroom. Huh? I said, I'd require the people to come into your building. Then I'd have your members standing in the foyer, and I'd have an open house, and I'd walk them through your church building and show them where the Bible classes are that their children would attend. I'd introduce them to the teacher where they would be attending. I'd have the teacher give them the backpack, and then I'd have the teacher have an activity in there for them, and then I'd take them to the fellowship hall where the ladies have prepared a meal, or dessert, or hors d'oeuvres, and then we'd eat with them. Then we'd walk them over to an information center. Then we'd walk them out. We'd walk them out and into their car, and then we'd do it again. Rob, we'll never get through 400 backpacks like that. I said, I know. But you will have results. And they did. They had a Bible study the very day they did it. So when I'm talking about promoting an evangelistic culture, I'm talking about thinking not about how many people we can run through our overpass. I'm talking about how many souls we can connect with and reach and make relationships with so that we can take them to the cross, which means that we might ask our members to come up to, and they did, and I was there when it happened, and I saw the Carnes membership showed up, and you had all these members in this foyer, and as people walked in, they'd walk in, hey, my name's Gary, and it's my wife, and we come on in. Y'all come on in. And what's your little girl's name? And and then we'd send the next one out. We do the same thing, and we get to know them, and get to meet them, and find out what their needs were. In fact, one lady said, "Man, I've never seen a church like this before." She said, "What do y'all believe?" And I said, "Well, we just so happen to have, let me see, these little booklets, and we'd be glad if you got some time." And she says, "I'm not doing anything else tonight." And he said, "Right over here in room 101, we'll just get started right now." I took pictures of Steve Higginbotham and one of the ladies of the church doing the Bible study. You think we'd had a Bible study if we'd put 400 people through a Chick-fil-A line? Hello? Yes, this is Gary. Yes, I'm the preacher for the Mountain Creek Church Christ. Yes, we help people. And do you give groceries? Sure, we help people with groceries. Do you help with light bills? Sure, we help with light bills. Man, do you help with gas bills? We help with gas bills. Man, do you help with house repairs? We help with house repairs. Do you help with, how about rent? We help with rent. Well, man, you guys, where are you guys located? We can't wait to get there. And sir, what do I need to do to get this help? I've called every church out here. No one wants to help me. And man, sir, what day can I come? Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and we can't wait to see you. Huh? Sir, I just can't get there on Sunday morning. That's okay. We do it again at 10 o'clock. And we can't wait to see you. I just can't get there at 10 o'clock. That's okay because we do it again at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or whenever it is. Well, I just don't know. That's okay. We do it at 7 o'clock on Wednesday nights, and we can't. I don't have a car. Don't worry. We'll come pick you up. Benevolence becomes an evangelistic work of the church. Brethren, you are not the soup kitchen. Our job is not to solve world poverty. And so when we use benevolence, we are using benevolence to bring people to the cross. So every benevolent act now is connected to is connected to a Bible study. And in fact, Northern Oaks, 35 baptisms, 2 years. Mel Hutzler, church of 100 people. And Mel said, Rob, most of my Bible studies happen on Sunday morning. He said, because we funnel everyone into the church on Sunday mornings. And when they arrive, if they're not members of the church, guess what we do? I said, no, what do you do? He says, hey, you guys new here? Yeah. Hey, we got a special class for newcomers. Man, it's made just for you guys. Would y'all like to come to that class? Sure. So we take them to room 101, and we got members standing by, and guess what we do? Back to the Bible, book 1. Brethren, I like to listen to people that are successful. And when someone says they baptized 35 people in 2 years, and there are 100 members, I'm listening. How did you do that? They said, Rob, I said, do you ever give people help on Tuesday nights? He said, no, very rare. He says, what we'll tell them is that city services can help them until Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. I said, well, now, what if they do the Bible study, Mel? He said, we'll help them. I didn't tell them how much. We'll evaluate, elders, deacons, we'll evaluate how much help we can give them. He said, but we're there to teach them the gospel because we know what they really need is spiritual food. And that's why we're there. So what we have to do is reevaluate our work. So Vacation Bible School. Can we make Vacation Bible School an evangelistic event? You better believe it. I saw her sitting in that pew right there. 1, 2, 3. She was sitting right there. I didn't know her. And I walked up and said, I sat down. I just turned my head and said, you visiting this morning? She said, yeah. I said, I don't remember. I believe I've seen you before. And she said, name's Phyllis. Phyllis. What's your Woodard? Phyllis Woodard. And I said, Phyllis, you by yourself? Oh, no, brought my grandkids to Vacation Bible School. I think they need to be at VBS. I said, well, I do too. I said, Phyllis, where do you live? Just down the road. She said, you're the preacher here, aren't you? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, well, let me introduce you to my wife. And we introduced ourselves. And I said, well, tell me where your grandchildren are. Right over there. And I mean, her grandkids were sitting right there. I said, well, that's real sweet of you. What, about 5, 6 years old? Yeah. I said, well, I hope you'll come back. She said, oh, I will. So I made it a point to sit with her doing, Sunday, when we eat the cookies. I sat with her, got to know her. And the last day I said, Miss Phyllis, I said, man, I sure would like to come out and see you. So I'd love that. And I said, well, may I come by and visit? She says, well, sure. She said, be careful my husband, though. He won't like you. I said, no problem. So I came the next, that very week. I knocked on her door and said, hey, my name's Rob, my wife, Nicole. And she quickly closed the door. I said, Miss Phyllis, everything okay? My husband doesn't like you. And I said, what do you mean? He'll cuss you if he sees you. And I said, it's okay. I've been cussed before. And so she opens the door and says, Fred, he said, I'm going to bring some guests in here. And he said a few words I won't repeat. And I walked inside, and there was more smoke than oxygen. And I said, hey, Fred, my name's Rob, my wife, Nicole, and just wanted to meet you. And yeah, I'm not interested in what you're offering. I said, it's okay. And so Phyllis and I started talking. We eventually started doing the Bible studies. We baptized her into Christ. 1 year later, Fred had a massive heart attack. He was more receptive. I never give up on people. We baptized him too. Vacation Bible School must become an evangelistic event. Brethren, we are not there to hand out candy and cookies. We are there to teach people about Jesus. And so everything we do, and I could spend hours on this point. But we've got to funnel evangelism to everything this church does from this day forward. So if you're going to do a teacher's appreciation dinner, evangelism. Graduation banquet, evangelism. How do you make a graduation banquet evangelistic? We'll teach you. Everything I'm going to do is going to be focused on winning souls. Doesn't matter what it is. Let's go to number 5. By the way, do these look familiar to you guys? Because this is pretty much what our benevolence looks like in our churches. Backpack drives, teacher supplies, turkey giveaways, blessing boxes, winter coat drives, benevolent buildings, vouchers. Question, how many baptisms? How many baptisms do we have at the end of the year? Let's count them up. I was at a church, and they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands. I said, great. I said, it's a wonderful work. How many souls were saved? Oh, none this year. How about last year? No. How about the year before? No. How long have you been doing this? Oh, about 5 years. Have we had one baptism? Not yet, but we hope to. Her name is Kim. And we implemented this at Jacksonville. Secretary called me, said, Rob, had a lady called Kim, and she called and she said, she said, Rob, she said that she don't have a car, and told her we'd help her at church, and she wants to come, and Rob, just want to let you know I'm going to pick her up. I said, that's good. I said, we'll sit with her. She walked in the door. Nicole and I, we're just members now. We sat with her, got to know her, and took her to Dollar General after the service because we promised we'd help her, and she needed help. So we got her a few groceries. And I said, Kim, could I carry these into your car? She said, that'd be awful sweet of you to do that. And she said, I got a bad back. I said, no problem. So we walked in, and when I walked into her apartment, I looked around, and mold covered the walls. I said, Kim, how long have you lived here? She said, about 6 months. I said, Kim, have you been sick lately? Ever since I moved in. I said, you got a serious, I know, but they won't do anything about it. I said, who owns it? HUD. I said, I believe we can get them to move on it. We made a few phone calls, and within a couple of weeks, they had a brand new place opening up. And Kim says, Rob, they're going to move me into a brand new place. I said, I said, Kim, I'm glad. And she said, well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. She said, Rob, I got a problem. She said, I got a bad back, and my family moved me in. They're nowhere around here. Well, how am I going to do this? I said, we're going to move you, Kim. I said, we got plenty of men that can move you. So we showed up, we moved her in, and I'm sitting there as they're moving the furniture in. Right, Nicole and I are sitting right next to her. Hey, Kim, I got 3 questions for you. She said, what are they? I said, well, I just want to know what you think about the Jacksonville Church of Christ. Oh, that's the nicest church I've ever been to. I already knew that. I don't ask questions I don't know the answers to. Number 2. Hey, Kim, do you know a lot about the Jacksonville Church of Christ? No, not really. I knew that too. I don't ask questions I don't know the answers to. I don't like surprises. The church did her job, now I will do mine. Number 3, Kim, hey, would you like to know a little bit more about the church at Jacksonville? Oh, I kind of would. I said, I just so happen to have these little booklets, and I'm ready to go again. We baptized 17 people doing that. You can do that too. It says I'm very intentional about everything I do is focused on helping people come to Jesus. And so, yes, I'm genuine. I want to help people, but I can't solve all the problems people have, but I can take them to the Savior who can. Probably the most important point, and probably the last point I'll make. I have 10 points, but I won't make them all here tonight. But this is the most important, because without these, you don't go anywhere. And one of the biggest problems our churches are facing right now is that they don't have them. They don't have contacts. And when I ask churches, they call, hey, Rob, I've got a problem. We're struggling in our evangelism. I said, well, how many contacts do you have? 1, 0, 2. Brother, let me give you a number to shoot for. Okay, take your membership, multiply it times 10, and that's how many contacts you should have right now. How many would that be? So you have 140 members, multiplied times 10, how many contacts would that be? 1,400 contacts. You want to grow? That's your baseline. You need to take your membership, multiply it times 10, and that's your contact number. You're looking at me and saying, Rob, there's no way we can get 1,400 contacts. I'll prove it to you. How many of you right now, raise your hand if you know 10 people that are lost? Raise your hand right now. It's not hard. How about if I did this? I said, I'm going to hand you a bookmark, and I want you to write down those 10 people in a bookmark. Would you do that? How about if I said, I want you to put it in your Bible. I want you to bring it back next Sunday. How about if I said this? I want to ask you this morning, does anybody on that bookmark, as I'm talking to 140 Christians who have 1,400 contacts, is there anyone on the contact list this morning that's got cancer? What are the odds that one of the 1,400 have cancer? Anybody? And what if we said, okay, we're going to start there, and we're going to love that person, and we're going to bring them food, and we're going to pray for them, we're going to send them cards, and we're going to bestow love and gratitude and compassion, and we're just going to do everything we can. If we got to mow a lawn, we'll mow a lawn. If we got to help clean a house, we'll help clean a house. And we're just going to go all out and help people. And we're going to find people who've had surgery, had lost loved ones, and just had babies, and just got married, and people that have had life-changing, we call them life events. And they've had these life events, a car accident, something's happened, and we're going to be there to help them. And guess what's going to happen when you do that? you're going to turn a contact into a prospect, and you're going to be very close to a Bible study. But I can't get you there if you don't have this. See, if we don't have contacts, we're never going to get there. And then one of the problems we're facing in our churches is we don't have them. Like we have no contacts. When I ask how many contacts, we got 2. You're so far away from your target, you're never going to get there. Jesus didn't say, Jesus did not say, few are called. What did he say? So somebody say, what did he say? Many. And he said, somebody finish it. Say the whole verse for me. Someone say it. Few are called, none are chosen. That's the motto of the Church of Christ. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, we get out there and help a few folks, and we just hope somehow we're going to grow. You call few. Does that work at Morgan Stanley? No, it doesn't. You have numbers, metrics. We all do. You know, Navy recruiters have numbers. Army recruiters have numbers. They know their numbers. You know, insurance sales, they have numbers. They have rules. Like they know if they make this many calls, they get this many contacts. This many contacts makes this many appointments. Anybody, does this sound familiar? This many appointments gives you this many sales. This many sales gives you this number. Ever done that before? Because we know that works. It works in the insurance agencies. I'm sure it works in law. It works in schools. I know it works with the police officers. What are our numbers? One thing we've done is we've worked really hard to develop numbers. I'm going to give your elders numbers. I'm going to give them to you. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a formula that starts at the top and works yourself through it, because we've got to succeed here, brethren. If we don't succeed here, nothing else matters. So how do we succeed here? Well, first, we promote the church. We make sure everybody knows the church is here. But we got to do it accurately and precisely and intentionally. So we don't want to waste money. We don't want to waste time. So what I notice is that there are churches out there that are promoting their church, but here's what happens. I'm just going to be honest. They use house to house, heart to heart. It's a great tool. So a person gets it, and then they look at it and they say, oh, I'm going to call them. And they call the number. And guess what they get when they call the number? Can you imagine running a business like that? Because the church building's normally not occupied. And so instead of so there are simple things like, you forward the call to the preacher or an elder and make sure we never miss a call again. Like never. We will never miss another phone call. When someone calls to this church and they're looking for help, I want them talking to a human being. No answering services. I got 10 things I could teach you tonight about how to make this work. Most of the time when I sit down with churches, they're missing 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. They're missing it. I looked over my left shoulder and she was sitting in that pew. And Alan Webster was preaching. He finished his sermon, so I walked in right behind him. I said, Alan, is that a visitor? He said, it is. I said, has she been here before? Rob's her first Sunday. I said, great. So I walked right in behind her, and before the closing prayer was said, I sat behind her. As soon as the closing prayer was said, she stood up, turned around, there I was. I said, ma'am, my name's Rob. She says, I'm Ellen. I said, Ellen, nice to have you. You visiting? She said, I am. I said, Ellen, can I ask how you liked our service today? Well, she said, kind of like, I liked it. I said, may I ask why you like it? She said, that preacher you have. Is it Alan? I said, yes, Alan Webster. Man, that man loves the Bible. I said, yes, Alan loves the Bible. And you live close by? She said, yeah, just down the road. I said, you by yourself? Well, yes, no. She said, my husband was on the way. He got a little sick. I took him home. And but man, I'd love him to meet this church. I've been looking for a church like this. I said, well, good. She says, sir, do you have an evening service? I said, yes, ma'am. I said, She said, well, you know what? She said, I think I'll come back. What time? I said, 6 o'clock. She said, I'm coming back. So sure enough, 6 o'clock, she brings her husband back, right? And Nicole and I sit right next to him. His name is Perry. And we're talking to Perry and Ellen, and I'm very intentional about this. There's something, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to teach you this routine here in just a minute. So I go through my whole routine. I got everything I want. Now I'm going to go to step 2. Hey, Perry and Ellen. I said, we've got a little custom here. I said, we always take visitors out to eat. It's our treat. What is your favorite restaurant, Perry? He said, Afina's. Ooh, Afina's. Perry, I said, I tell you what, our guests will take you to Afina. Really? You take us to Afina? I said, yes. And I said, what day would you like to go? He said, man, what about Tuesday? I said, I'll make the reservations. So I called up, I made reservations at Afina's, and we pull into Afina's. We walk in, there's Perry and Ellen. We sit around the table. I could care less about the lasagna. Brethren, I have one mission. But I got to find a sweet spot. You never ask people for Bible studies. You shouldn't have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make conversation. Just like a doctor, when you walk into his office, what do? They make conversation. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get to know him. Hey, Perry, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do? He said, got a little farm out there. I said, you got any hobbies? Well, yeah, kind of like sports. I said, sports? What, NFL football? Don't watch that anymore. I said, me neither. Whatever he likes. Paul, let me help you understand what I'm doing. Paul said, to the Romans, I'm a Roman. To the Greeks, I'm a Greek. I'll become all people to all men that some might be saved. By the way, that's not a doctrinal statement. That is a cultural statement. Paul's doctrine does not change. His culture does. Can we adapt? I hope so. So I got to find out where a sweet spot. I said, Perry, what do you watch? I said, NBA? Baseball? I said, well, Perry, what do you like? He says, man, I love college football. I said, really? I said, college football. I said, man, I do too. I said, what's your favorite team? He said, go Alabama. Oh, no. Go Alabama. Brethren, if I got to like Alabama football to get a Bible study, so be it. I don't care. And so we started talking about Nick Saban. I do. Go, oh man, we're in Tennessee. I can't get away from you people. And any case, so we're just talking, right? And we're talking football, you know. And I finally, of course, the whole conversation. I have one mission, Gary. This is one thing I want. I will get it. And I'm sitting there. I'm thinking, hey, I got it. He said, hey Perry. I said, you know, tomorrow's a national championship game. He said, yeah. I said, I'm sorry, y'all have had a terrible year. He said, I know, Rob, we didn't make it. And I said, Perry, you going to watch the game? He said, well, of course. I said, you know, we're having a football party at my house. What was that? That was my wife kicking me because she did not know about the party. And I said, yes, tomorrow at my house, football party, and you're invited. And he looked at his wife. He said, honey, can we go to the Whitakers for the football party? And she says, well, I don't see why not. I said, great. I'll see you guys about 6 o'clock. We'll have a big spread of food, and we'll have a great time watching the game. I get in the car. My wife says, what party? Who's coming and who's cooking? I said, well, those are minor details. And I said, honey, we'll work it out, honey. And sure enough, we worked it out, as we always do. And Perry and Ellen are in the house. We're watching the football game. It was a blowout. And halftime, and Perry, can I talk to you? He said, yeah. He said, I'm so glad you're in my home. You enjoy it? Oh, man, that's so nice of y'all to invite us. And, man, we really like that church. I said, Perry, do you know a lot about the Jacksonville Church of Christ? He says, not a lot. I said, would you like to know a little bit more about it? You know, I would. And in fact, you know, Rob, for 21 years, you guys have sent us house to house, heart to heart. 21 years. He says, you know, I read it every time we get it. I said, why? He says, well, because it's always about the Bible. Rob, our church doesn't follow the Bible anymore. I said, really? He says, they've changed the rules on marriage. He said, Rob, we're looking for a church that follows the Bible. I said, I just so happen to have these little booklets. We baptized him, his wife, his son's wife. And now we're looking at someone else in the family. How did that happen? Because we advertised our presence. Gary, you don't advertise your presence, do you? That was a joke. I've seen it. Morgan Stanley doesn't advertise, does it? I mean, you guys help me. Doesn't every business spend a little bit of their budget on customer acquisition? Is that the word? Am I using the technical customer acquisition? And in fact, they may ask, how much does it cost for you to acquire a customer? That's important information. And it goes into the budget. Do churches need to be aware that we have customers all around us and we need to make sure that we're acquiring them and we're promoting it's amazing to me. We give churches free space on the back. You can put whatever you want on there. Guess how many churches advertise? We're sending it into all the homes. Guess how many churches give us something to put on the back? 30%. So 70% of the time, what do? We have to make it up. Then we offer free things. And guess what happens when we offer free things? Hello? Yes. Where are you located? Helena, Montana. Yes. Oh, you got a phone call about, they want the track on baptism. Yes. And you want us to do what? So, sir, you realize we're in Jacksonville, Alabama? And they're in Helena, Montana. Sir, do you not live in Helena, Montana? They want us to mail it for them. And they live just down the road. If you want to make personal contact, let me teach you how to do that. Her name's Brenda. She called the church. She said, hey, I saw you guys were offering some marriage material, and I just got married. Could y'all send that to me? And Miss Deborah, I said, sure, we'll send it to you. And then Deb remembered, we have a new rule. The rule is we don't send things. We hand deliver them. And so Deb called me, and she said, hey, Rob, the elder said in this new evangelism plan that I'm not allowed to mail anything anymore. I don't understand that. But anyway, so I put this in your box, and there's an address, and I think you're going to go deliver this, aren't you? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, now, we've never done this before. I said, that's because, that's why you don't baptize. That's what I'm thinking. I didn't say that part. But if you don't make personal contact, there'll be no Bible studies. I guarantee it. So I said, Deb, I'll be right down. So Nicole and I pulled in, and I was out of state at the time. We got the information. We're looking for Brenda Glaze. I'm knocking on the doors and finally found her house, and Nicole's with me. When I knock a door, I never go alone. And number two, I always have a woman or a child with me. I never go with another man. Now, there are several reasons for this, and if I had time to train you, I would. I do not. This is an overview, but we have some studies that are done. Bring a child or a woman, and your odds, your success begins to increase a little bit. So I always stand to the side. I let them see Nicole first, and I kind of move in. And ma'am, my name's Rob, my wife Nicole. You Brenda Glaze? Yes. I said, Brenda, we have that marriage material you request. Oh, that's so sweet. Yes. You're from house to house. I said, yes, ma'am. And I said, this is a video. This is some track. This is a book on marriage. I said, Brenda, can I ask a question? Sure. Did you just get married? I did. I said, how long? Oh, about a month ago. And I said, well, Brenda, I said, you grew up here? No. We moved here. From where? Oxford. Okay. Well, welcome to Jacksonville, Alabama. Do you know a lot about Jacksonville? No, I don't know. I said, let me explain where things are located. So I'm just making conversation. I said, Brenda, I said, I'm so glad to meet you. And she said, sir, I got a question for you. Since my husband and I have moved here, and my husband's name is Daniel, and since we've moved here, we've been looking for a church. I said, really? And she says, sir, when I married this man, he knows nothing about the Bible. And she got real serious. I said, yes, ma'am. And he said, I'm looking for someone to teach this man the Bible. Could you help me? Brother, you could have blown me over. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, good. I said, when would you want to start? She says, right now. Didn't she look so? I didn't know Daniel was even home. Daniel, get up. I don't know what that man does all day. He gets home, gets on the couch, and goes to bed. He needs to get up. Daniel, get up. There are guests here. She shakes him, pulls him over to the door. Daniel's 6'5". And I'm looking at Daniel. He's looking at me. And this is exactly how she did. Boy, if I could replicate. She gets her finger like this. She says, Daniel, we're going to teach you the Bible. I said, let's go. And I said, how about tomorrow? My wife would make chocolate chip cookies. And she said, that'd be good. Daniel likes chocolate chip cookies. And so we always eat when we do studies. See, we baptized Brenda. Daniel and Medford, and I think we had 7 baptisms. What would have happened if I mailed it? Because that's the easy thing to do, right? Because we don't have time to visit people. I mean, you can't do that. It don't work, you know. People, it's kind of uncomfortable. We can mail it and check off the box. We can scratch them off the list. Men like to get things done. We've done that. We go to the next one. You got to make a target list, and we're going to help you do that. You got to learn how to knock doors. We have a 30% success rate at the door. Let me repeat that. I will back it up. I've done it for years. I will teach you how to get a 30% success rate at the door. Most churches get about a 3. And we've worked hard trying to figure out how to make this work because we know it works. And man, I wish I had time to teach you. New movers. So one of the most productive contacts you have in a church are called new movers. These are people moving in your community. By the way, you guys have any idea how many people are moving here every single month? I do. I know the number. Look around. You think you guys are growing around here? Oh, yeah. And what's one thing that new movers don't have when someone moves into your community? There's one thing they don't have. That's one of them. Okay, but there's something else they don't have, and we have it. Thank you. Let me quote David Shannon. People are most likely to change churches when they move. A couple of generations ago, if a couple or a family or an individual move from one city to another city, they usually, those days are over. It doesn't matter to me what denomination they were in the last town. Your average person today is willing to look at any church in their neighborhood. That is a powerful opportunity for evangelism. It doesn't matter to me what church they were a part of in the last town. I want them to visit the church of Christ because it gives us the best opportunity to sit down and study the Word of God. That's a contact. If you have 20 new movers a month, how many in a year? 240 what? Contacts. How many contacts do you need in this church? 1,400. I just got you 240 of them. Oh, we're just getting started. Brethren, evangelism is the most exciting work in the world. Someone says, how do you travel to 42 churches a year? Because I love it. There's nothing that motivates me more than reaching the lost. And there are so many tools at our disposal that we're not. So how does this work? You have to train people. You have to establish a coordinator. And you have to show them what to say, what not to say. And we're going to do all that. We're going to give you script. Here are things you never say, because if you do, it will be a disaster, guaranteed. Cards. You got to have I'm talking about a card ministry that you have never seen before. I'm not talking about sending Gary Massey cards because he has the sniffles. I'm talking about sending the lost cards. In fact, no one gets sent cards that's a brother or sister. You're eliminated. Okay? So you're going to come to church if you get a card or not, right? So we're concerned about the folks out here that have lost a mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter. They're in their obituaries if you don't know them. And we're concerned about all the people out here that are struggling and they're suffering. And we're going to become a card factory. And we're not going to send one card with 20 signatures. That does not work. We're going to send 3 or 4 or 5 cards a day for a period of weeks. It's going to be very organized. We're going to have a spreadsheet. We're going to know how many cards they get each day. We're going to know how long. We're going to track it. It's a pipeline. Y'all know what the word pipeline means? You put them in the pipeline, you move them through the pipeline, and you know at each stage where we're at and what we're trying to do. You do that at work, it works well, doesn't it? That's how you got a job. We can do the same thing in the church. All right? So we're going to meet people that are hurting, and then we're going to say, okay, we are going to be intentional about helping them. We're not going to let them slip through the cracks. And we're going to be genuine about it because I really care about them. And one of the things, in fact, I'll just say this tonight. In our school, in our stats, there are more baptisms because of cards than anything we do. And we need everybody doing it. You should have 2, 3, 4 teams. And it's not voluntary, no sign-up lists. Sign-up lists are disasters. Everybody's on the list. And we're going to have coordinators, and we're going to make this into an army. And we're going to send those compassion cards everywhere. And it's going to really move people. And now, on a rarest occasion, someone will get upset because you love them. I don't want you to love me anymore. Well, I guarantee that person was unreachable to begin with. You've done no damage. But there are people that have good and honest hearts, and they're just lonely. And then they're moved by your compassion. In fact, someone open their Bibles. I'll open mine. Jude. Let's go to Jude. I'll read a passage here of Scripture to help us put this into perspective. Because the Bible is the roadmap of evangelism. I've been quoting it all seminar long. I've been trying to build our evangelism model from Scripture. And here's something that's interesting. In verse 23, it says, "And others save with fear, pulling them out of the fire." Let me boil this down. There are folks out here, the only way you're going to reach them is with a hellfire and brimstone sermon. But look at the other verse, like the first one, verse 22. "And on some have compassion, making a difference." You know, there are folks out here, if you just be compassionate, if you just be loving and show them kindness, does it make a difference in your life? Does someone cares? Have you ever been at a point in your life when you thought no one cared about me? Does compassion work in your work, Gary? Tom, does it work in, brother? Tom, does it work in your job? Even in financial markets, compassion works. So I don't know what you guys do for a living, so I don't know what everybody's job is. How about the insurance market? When you're making cold calls, does it work when you're compassionate? Can we treat people like numbers and just expect them to be converted? No. How did Jesus treat people? Let me give you one example. John 4. "Hey, I'm thirsty. Could you give me a drink of water?" It may be one of the most brilliant strategic moves in all of world history. If you'll study what Jesus did in John 4, he'll take you to school. What he did at that well should be textbook for every child of God. Her name's Bettina. Nicole and I walked in her apartment, and all around her apartment are cards. They're set up everywhere. The church did her job. Now I get to do mine. I said, "Bettina, I'm from Jacksonville." Yeah, y'all come on in. So we walked in and sat down. She's got oxygen over here to her right, and she's had some health problems, and she's just moved there, and she's telling me about her family history, where she's come from. And I said, "Bettina, can I ask you a question?" I said, "You must be one of the most popular people I've ever met." "Why is that?" I said, "You got 60, 70 cards. She said, 72. I said, "You got 72 cards here. I've read every one of them, Rob." I said, "Where have they come from?" "Rob, it comes from that church you go to, Jacksonville." I never ask questions I don't know the answers to. "Hey, Bettina, what do you think about the Jacksonville church?" "Oh, I love it." "Do you know a lot about the Jacksonville church?" "No, not a lot." "Would you like to know more about the Jacksonville?" "Oh, I sure would." Good, because I just so happen to have, someone help me. These little, thank you, these little booklets. Brother, you are spot on. And we baptized her. That's Alan. I called her. I needed help. She needed 2 people to help her in the baptism. Visitors. Now I'm going to end right here. This is my last point. I got so much. I want to give you a taste of what's coming. When visitors walk into your assembly, they're the most important people. So we should have door greeters and pew greeters. Door greeters are at the door, pew greeters are here. And when a visitor walks in the door, I need to ask a question. I need you to think about this. What's the number one thing that visitor wants when they walk in the door? Air conditioned? Oh, recognition. Okay. Recognition. Okay. Anybody else? Direction, like where things are located. Yeah. Recognition. A study was done by a Pew Research Center, and the question was asked to religious people, when you visit churches, what's the number one thing you want? I think we should listen to that. To sit down. How many of you visit churches? When you walk in, what do you want to do? Sit down. So do you want Gabby Gossip to accost you at the door and ask you personal questions? No. Should we put Gabby Gossip at the door? How about Angry Fred? Should we put Angry Fred to be one of the door greeters? No, we put Angry Fred in the closet. Okay, we don't put Angry Fred at the door. No, so I've got to move very quickly here, but so here's what we do. We train a group of people, 6 to 8, church this side, maybe 8 to 10, and we're going to train people what to do when visitors walk in. So you got the door greeters and the pew greeters. Pew greeters are very important because they have one job, and it's to get contact information, and we know how to do it. So your ladies right now, my wife is talking to your ladies, and one of the things that my wife is teaching your ladies is how to go shopping in the name of the Lord. You don't want to do this. It's God-authorized shopping, but you'd rather not go. But she does. And she's going to get these little gift baskets and bags, and we're going to make sure visitors, and has all these little things in it that will impress a visitor. And they're going to sit down, and our pew greeter, who's been trained, is going to walk up and sit down. We're not going to sit on the same pew that makes them uncomfortable. We're going to sit in front or behind, and if we're going to, in fact, I'll just demonstrate. I'll be sitting. My wife and I, hey, you visiting this morning? Hey, my name is Rob, my wife Nicole. We're members here. Nice to have you. What's your name? Gary. Gary. And your wife? Michelle. Gary. So nice to have you all this way. Did y'all live in this community or just passing through?
We live here.
Well, great. We're so glad you're here. Gary, I tell you what, we've got something we always give visitors. Let me go grab one. I'm going to go grab one of these gift bags. I'm going to bring. We give gifts to visitors. We just want a show of appreciation for you coming, and so grateful you're here. By the way, we're a card-sending church. We like to send cards thanking visitors for coming. Would it be okay if I got your name and address so I could send you a card just saying thank you for coming? How often will you give me that information? I just gave him a gift. 99 times out of 100. Now, should I hand him the card and say, fill this out? No. What I should do is I should do it for him. And I'm going to fill this card out, and now I've got, what did I, so when a visitor walks in the door, is that a contact? No. Is it a customer when they walk in the door? Is that no. When does it become a customer? Well, I got the information now. Now we're building. So I want a contact. One of the biggest mistakes we make in our churches is that visitors walk in and they leave and we get no information. I can tell you story after story of my family going into churches, walking in and walking out, and I don't even get a hello. I can give you big name churches. I can give you churches where schools of preaching are located. In fact, if I wanted to embarrass some folks, I could do it right now. We are terrible at this because we're not intentional. Our motto in our churches is this. This is how we do it. You're visiting this morning, we want to welcome you to our service, your honored guests. And there's a card in the pew back in front of you. If you'll fill the card out, there are some young men who will pick up the cards. I'll put it in the contribution plate. Or there's a QR code right here. If you'll scan the QR code, it doesn't work. So let's do something that does. There's a lot more I'd like to say about visitors. I will give you one stat, then I'm going to close. Here's my stat. A study was done recently, religious study. The study was how many visitors have to come to your building every week for growth. You ready? Per 100 members, you need 3 to 6 visitors every week if you're going to grow. 3 to 6 per 100 members. Now, we're going to help you get there, but I think numbers are important. God bless you, brethren. You've been very patient with me tonight, and I know I've gone over. I always do. I just can't help myself. I love evangelism, and I love you. I love the church, and I know you do too. Thank you for giving us time this week, and if you have any questions, if you're visiting, if you want to know more about our school, I got packets I can get you, and I'm going to be meeting with the elders and maybe a few others, and we're going to talk about how to make this work. And let's pray together. Father, we're thankful for the time we could be together and to, Father, to speak about the most important mission in the world. It's the Great Commission. Father, we're thankful for Jesus, and we thank Thee, Father, that in this church, He is our King, and may we praise Your name, and Father, He gets all the glory. As soldiers in Your army, help us to be equipped and ready And Father, we pray that you would give us courage, and Father, that we could reach the lost. We won't save most people, Father, but just a few. Help us to reach the few in this community. And Father, we pray for the eldership here. Bless them as they deliberate. Bless this church as they work. And we thank Thee, Father, being our God, for love, grace, and mercy. In Jesus' name, amen.
I'd like to say just one thing before we start. Thank you all for being here. We've had good attendance this week. We're very thankful for that. I just want to say thank you, Rob. This has been fantastic. It gives us a running start to do the work we should be doing and to taking the gospel to people who need it. Sunday, defer, don't debate. Show, don't tell. Plant, don't pick. It's not many times, and this may be part of my shortcomings, but it's not often that I listen to another preacher who teaches me things that I didn't know and I feel like I should have known, and who doesn't say anything, even though I didn't know it, doesn't say anything with which I disagree. Convinces me he's right. But Rob did that.